There is a moment subtle, almost invisible, when everything shifts. It happens the instant she ignores you. No reply, no acknowledgement, just silence. And in that silence, most men reveal their weakness. They rush in to fill the void. They double text. They over-explain. They chase harder, believing effort will restore what was lost. But what they fail to understand is this attention given too freely has no value. And the moment you begin to chase, you are no longer desired. You are merely available. Now listen carefully, because what you are about to understand, very few men ever do. Silence is not empty. Silence is power. And the one who knows how to wield absence controls the game. When she ignores you, she is not just ignoring your message. She is observing your reaction. She is measuring your composure, testing whether you are driven by need or anchored in control. Most fail this test instantly. But you will do something different. You will disappear, not emotionally, not in bitterness, but strategically. You see, in the psychology of attraction, presence creates comfort, but absence creates desire. When you are constantly there, always responding, always available, you become predictable, and predictability breeds indifference. But when you withdraw, when your presence is no longer guaranteed, something changes within her mind. Curiosity awakens, questions begin to form. Why did he stop? Where did he go? Was I wrong about him? And just like that, the power begins to shift. Understand this like a strategist, not a romantic. Humans do not chase what is available. They chase what feels uncertain, what feels slightly out of reach. This is not cruelty. This is nature, and Niccolò Machiavelli himself understood this principle deeply. Power is never maintained through constant presence. It is maintained through controlled distance, through unpredictability, through the careful balance of appearing and disappearing. When she ignores you, she expects you to react. She expects emotion. She expects pursuit. So when you give her none of that, when you step back into silence, you break the pattern. And breaking the pattern creates impact. Now imagine this. Where you once replied instantly, now there is space. Where you once initiated constantly, now there is restraint. Where you once gave attention freely, now there is scarcity. This is not a game of manipulation. This is a recalibration of value. Because your attention, your time, your presence, these are not cheap commodities. They are assets, and assets must be protected, not given away in desperation. Strategic absence is not about punishing her. It is about elevating yourself. When you withdraw, you send a message without words. I am not controlled by your attention. I do not seek validation. My world does not revolve around your response. And that is power. Most men fear this step because absence feels like loss. It feels like giving up, but in reality it is the opposite. You are not losing her attention. You are forcing her to notice its absence. And absence is felt more deeply than presence. Think about it. When something is always there, you stop noticing it. It fades into the background, but the moment it's gone, it becomes impossible to ignore. That is the effect you create. Not by chasing, not by explaining, but by stepping back with control. Now, this requires discipline. Because your instincts will fight you. You will feel the urge to check your phone, to send just one more message, to break the silence. But every time you resist, you strengthen your position. Every moment of restraint builds tension. And tension is the foundation of attraction. You must become comfortable with the unknown, comfortable with silence, comfortable with not reacting, because reaction is what weakens you, and composure is what defines you. She must feel that your life continues unaffected, that your focus is elsewhere, that your energy is not dependent on her attention. This creates something powerful, respect, not the kind that is asked for, but the kind that is felt. Because when a man is not easily moved, he becomes difficult to replace. And when he becomes difficult to replace, he becomes valuable. So when she ignores you, do not chase, do not question, do not seek clarity. Instead, you step back into the shadows. You let silence speak for you. You allow absence to create curiosity. And you trust that the one who holds control over their attention holds control over the dynamic. Because in this game of perception, the man who is always present is forgotten. But the man who knows when to disappear becomes unforgettable. There is something far more powerful than words, more influential than looks, more decisive than effort. It is invisible, yet it dictates everything. It is the frame. The frame is not what you say, it is what your behavior silently declares. It is the meaning behind your actions, the story that forms in her mind about who you are and where you stand. And when she ignores you, the frame is at risk, because in that moment, most men unknowingly surrender it. They begin to question themselves, they assume they did something wrong, they send messages that seek clarity, reassurance, or worse, approval. And with every word, they reinforce a dangerous narrative. She has the power, and I am trying to earn it. That is the moment you lose. Because whoever defines the situation controls the outcome. Now understand this carefully. If she ignores you, there are only two possible frames. Either you are the man seeking her attention, or you are the man who is unaffected by its absence. There is no middle ground. And the moment you react emotionally, you have already chosen your role. But you will not fall into this trap. You will take control of the frame, not through force, not through explanation, but through perception. Because the strongest frame is the one that is never argued, only demonstrated. Let me show you how power truly operates here. When she ignores you, she is silently setting a frame. I am the one in control. My attention is valuable. You are waiting for me. And most men accept this frame without resistance. They comply. They adjust their behavior to fit into it. But a man who understands power does something entirely different. He refuses to accept the frame, and instead he replaces it without a single word. He does not chase. He does not question. He does not react. He continues as if nothing has changed, and in doing so, he establishes a new reality. My attention is not easily earned. My time is not waiting for you. I am not affected. This is what it means to control the frame. You are not responding to her behavior. You are defining what her behavior means. And this distinction changes everything. Because meaning is power. If her ignoring you makes you feel rejected, you lose. If her ignoring you changes your behavior, you lose. If her ignoring you causes you to seek validation, you lose. But if her ignoring you has no visible effect on you, then suddenly she is no longer in control. And this creates tension. Because now her expectations are broken. She expected you to react. She expected pursuit. She expected emotional movement. But instead she is met with stillness. And stillness is unsettling. It forces her to reconsider, to question, to analyze. Why isn't he reacting? Did I misjudge him? Does he not care? And in that moment the frame begins to shift, because now she is the one seeking understanding. She is the one trying to make sense of your behavior. And the moment someone tries to understand you, they are already investing in you. This is why control of the frame is everything. It determines who is chasing and who is being chased, who is reacting and who is observing, who holds power and who gives it away. Now consider the teachings of Niccolò Machiavelli, a man who understood the mechanics of control better than most. He knew that power is not just about action but perception. A ruler does not beg for loyalty. He embodies authority so completely that loyalty becomes the natural response. And in the same way, you do not ask for attention. You embody a presence that makes attention inevitable, but this requires discipline, because controlling the frame means resisting the urge to explain yourself. It means allowing ambiguity, allowing silence, allowing her to sit with uncertainty. Most men cannot tolerate this. They rush to clarify, to fix, to resolve, but in doing so, they destroy the very tension that creates attraction. You must be different. You must understand that not every silence needs to be filled. Not every action needs a response. Not every situation requires your involvement. Sometimes the most powerful move is to do nothing, and let your lack of reaction speak louder than any words ever could. Because when you control the frame, you control how she sees you. And when you control how she sees you, you control how she feels about you. And when you control how she feels, you control the entire dynamic. So when she ignores you, you do not chase her reality. You define your own. You remain grounded, unmoved, untouched, and in that quiet, controlled presence, you reshape the game itself. There is a force more powerful than pursuit, more unsettling than rejection, more attractive than desire itself. It is indifference, not the loud kind, not the forced kind, but the quiet, controlled, almost invisible kind that speaks without words and shifts power without effort. When she ignores you, most men respond with emotion. They feel the sting, the confusion, the need to fix what they believe is broken, and in that moment, they reveal something critical. They care more than she does, and the one who cares more always holds less power. This is not cruelty. This is not cynicism. This is structure. Human interaction, at its core, is governed by imbalance. The one who is more invested becomes predictable. The one who is less invested becomes intriguing. And indifference is the ultimate expression of controlled investment. Now understand this deeply. Indifference is not pretending you don't care. It is reaching a state where your actions are not dictated by whether she does, because there is a difference between acting indifferent and being indifferent. One is fragile, the other is unshakable. Most men try to act cool. They delay replies, they mimic detachment. But beneath the surface, they are still watching, waiting, hoping. Their indifference is an illusion, and illusions collapse under pressure. But true indifference cannot be faked. It comes from abundance, from knowing that your value is not defined by one person's attention, from understanding that your time, your focus, your energy are too valuable to be given in exchange for uncertainty. And when that mindset becomes real, your behavior changes naturally. You stop overanalyzing. You stop chasing, you stop reacting, and without saying a word, you create distance, not as punishment, but as consequence. Because when someone chooses to ignore you, they are choosing to step away from your presence. And a man who understands his worth does not follow, he lets them go. This is where leverage is born, because indifference creates a psychological imbalance that is impossible to ignore. When you no longer seek her attention, she begins to question why. When you no longer react to her silence loses its power. When you no longer appear affected, she begins to feel the effect, and this is the paradox. The less you care, the more she notices. The less you react, the more she feels. The less you chase, the more she wonders. Because now the roles are reversed. She expected you to pursue. She expected emotional movement. She expected validation. But instead she is met with stillness, and stillness creates tension. It creates a space where her mind begins to fill in the gaps. Why is he so calm? Why didn't he try again? Does he not need my attention? And the moment these questions begin, you have already shifted the dynamic, because now she is thinking about you, not because you demanded attention, but because your indifference made her aware of its absence. This is why indifference is leverage. It removes you from the position of need and places you in the position of choice. You are no longer reacting to her behavior. You are observing it, evaluating it, deciding whether it deserves your attention, and that shift is everything, because attention given freely is ignored, but attention given selectively is valued. Now consider the mindset of Niccolò Machiavelli, who understood that power is not about force. It is about control over perception and emotion. He knew that those who appear unaffected become unpredictable, and those who are unpredictable cannot be controlled. When you are indifferent, you become difficult to read, difficult to influence, difficult to manipulate, and that creates a sense of mystery, because people are drawn to what they cannot fully understand. They are intrigued by what does not bend easily. They respect what does not seek approval. So when she ignores you and you respond with indifference, you are not losing anything, you are revealing everything. You are showing that your emotional state is not dependent on her actions, that your focus remains intact, that your life continues uninterrupted, and this forces a realization that you are not like the others. You do not chase, you do not beg, you do not react impulsively, you observe, you decide, you move with intention, and that kind of presence is rare. Now understand this clearly. Indifference is not about pushing her away. It is about refusing to pull her closer. It is about creating space and allowing her to decide whether to step into it, because attraction cannot be forced. It can only be invited, and indifference is the invitation that says, I am here, but I am not waiting. I am open, but I am not chasing. I am present, but I am not dependent. And in that quiet, controlled energy you create something powerful, attention that cannot be ignored, a presence that cannot be easily replaced, a dynamic where you are no longer the one seeking attention, but the one deciding whether to give it.